Today's video is about Lisanne and Kris from the Netherlands, and they left Amsterdam mid-March of 2014 and went on vacation in Panama. And their base in Panama was this language school. Now, unfortunately, in this video, many of the photographs are blurry. Some of them are zoomed in already or cropped, and many of the photographs are missing. Now, here's a photograph of Kris, and it's important to know that she had the iPhone 4, and so that's what she took on the hike. And here's a photograph of Lisanne, and it's important to know that she had the Samsung Galaxy S3, and she also had a digital camera. Here's the Pacific Ocean, and there's Panama, and there's David, Panama. And then north of that is where Kris and Lisanne went and stayed. And if you zoom in here, they were just a little bit below that city there. And then the trail is up on this road right here. And the trail is right here. And then the restaurant that was next to the trail is right here. Now here's a little look at the area where they went missing, and you can't get lost out there. The girls generally started their day off writing in their diaries about the day before, or sometimes at the end of their day writing in their diaries. Now that morning, Lisanne didn't write anything in her diary, and the 1-4 stands for April 1st, and then there's no writing there. But Kris, she wrote in her diary. And so it says, and so I'll read it for you. It says April 1st, and then it has all those other words there. Now, video captured the girls inside a supermarket at approximately 11 a.m. that morning. Now, taxi driver Leonardo Arturo Gonzalez Mastinho stated that he picked up the girls near the language school at 1:30 p.m. on April 1st and dropped off the girls at El Pianista restaurant at 1:40 p.m. Azul lived at this restaurant at the trailhead, and he supposedly followed the girls up the trail that day. But he chose to enact his right to remain silent. So we don't know if he followed the girls up the trail or not. Now here's the first photograph, photo 476, of the girls' adventure on the nature hike, and it was taken at 11:18 a.m. Here's two photographs that were taken just seconds after that first photograph, photos 477 and 479. Here's a photograph of Lisanne taken just a few minutes after that last photograph at 11:25 a.m. And here's a photograph of both girls at 11:25 a.m. And notice in this photograph that they both have their sunglasses on, and Lisanne is wearing the backpack. And here's a photograph of Kris at 11:42 a.m. And notice that she's wearing the backpack now. And she doesn't have on the sunglasses anymore. Photo 491 of Kris at 12:03 p.m. And we're going to take a little closer look at this photograph. So fortunately, I have a zoomed in picture of this same photograph. Now the thing that I wanted to point out was she has that plastic water bottle in her right hand, and so that will be important later. So about 1 p.m., Kris and Lisanne reached the El Mirador del Fiesta. And they were really happy that they reached their goal at the top. And they took several pictures of themselves up there at the lookout or the viewpoint. Here's photograph 504 at 1:06 p.m. showing a view of what they could see that day. Now they took 4 or 5 more photographs using their phones at 1:14 p.m. Now sometime after they reached their destination, Azul returned safely back to the restaurant. And he would suggest to you that you always stay on the trail. That's why he's never gotten lost. Here is photograph number 505 at 1:20 p.m. And these are the same photograph. The one on the right is just a zoom in close-up of Kris. Photo 506 at 1:20 p.m. shows that they have not continued down the trail back to the trailhead, but have veered off somewhere. And unfortunately for them, they lost cell phone service at 1:38 p.m. Now here's another photograph of Kris at 1:54 p.m. and she's about to cross this stream. And then only 8 seconds later, this photograph here, photo 508, of her after she crossed that stream. And this is the last photograph for some time. Now at this moment, an attempted phone call was made to 112, the emergency number, at 4:39 p.m. And remember, they didn't have service, so the phone, you can dial it and all that, but the telephone call doesn't go through. And then at this moment, a attempted call was made with the iPhone to 112 at 4:51 p.m. And then at this moment, the iPhone 4 and the Samsung Galaxy were powered off at 5:52 p.m. In the morning, an attempted phone call was made to 112 at 6:58 a.m. from the Samsung Galaxy. And then an attempted phone call was made to 112 at 8:14 a.m. from the iPhone. Now at this moment, an attempted call was made to 112 and to 911 at approximately 10:52 a.m. And then the phone checked for signal and was turned off at 11:50 a.m. This moment, the Samsung cell phone was turned on at 4:19 p.m. For some reason, they couldn't wait to 4:20. Now remember, photograph 508 was Kris just over the stream. And from my inside source, photograph 509 was deleted around this time. Now there's speculation that this photograph was deleted by the police after they found the cell phone and started their investigation. Early in the morning, the weather app on the Samsung was used at 2:21 a.m. and at 2:47 a.m. And I'm not sure what you can do without the internet with the weather app. And then at 7:36 a.m., the Samsung was turned off. And sometime later, the power went out on the Samsung phone. Now a check for reception was made at 9:32 a.m. on the iPhone. And then again, a check was made at 11:46 a.m. with the iPhone. And then again at 3:59 p.m. a check for reception was made. Now after the Samsung cell phone was off for a while, it had enough power to turn on again. So it was turned on at 4:50 and 5 o'clock a.m. And a reception check was made with the iPhone at 10:16 a.m. And then another reception check was done at 1:42 p.m. In the late morning, another reception check was done at 10:50 a.m. And then the Samsung cell phone was powered on and a reception check was done at 1:14 p.m. And then a reception check was done at 1:37 p.m. from the iPhone. Now what hasn't been said was that the PIN had been entered correctly all the previous times. But on this day, the wrong PIN was entered into the phone. And so the phone was of no use. And then later, in the later days, either the wrong PIN was entered or no PIN at all. And the phone was turned on and off several times. Now something really strange happens. In the early morning of April 8th, 100 photos were taken within 3 hours by Lisanne's Canon digital camera with the flash on. Now, photograph 511 was taken at 1:30 a.m. in 7 seconds. And so I've added the seconds into the video now. And it's of the night sky. And then the next 30 photographs are not available on the internet. So the next photograph is photo 541 at 1:37 and 57 seconds a.m. And it looks to show a small portion of somebody's face. And then photograph 542 was taken at 1:38 and 12 seconds, and it kind of shows a rock and then the stream there where they were at. And then photograph 543 was taken at 1:38 and 28 seconds, and it's of the night sky again. And then another photograph of the night sky. And then photograph 544 was taken at 1:38 and 46 seconds. And then the next photograph, photo 545, was taken at 1:38 and 57 seconds and shows some trees and the sky. And then photograph 550, we skipped over some photos, was taken at 1:39 and 52 seconds, and it shows this branch or something right here. And then the next photograph that I have here is of the night sky, and then another photograph of the night sky, and then another photograph of the sky, but with some reflection. And I believe that reflection is fog, mist, and the camera flash hits that mist and you get the bright light. Then you have this photograph here, and then there's several more photographs of the night sky. So here's looking up from the jungle into the sky, and then another photograph of into the sky, and then another one. Again, there's 100 photographs taken at this time within this 3-hour time period. And then another photograph of the sky, and then you have this very strange photograph which appears to be the back of Kremers' head, and you can see her hair there, and much speculation is made here. And then I provide you with another photograph of the sky, and we're going to conclude with the photographs here at this time. On the 11th day of being out in the jungle, Kris's iPhone came on a couple more times, and then that was it. And then on June 14th, 2014, Lisanne's backpack was found, and it contained 2 pairs of sunglasses, approximately $88 in cash, Lisanne's insurance card, a water bottle that you saw Kris had in her hand in one of the photos, and then the Canon camera and the SD card for the camera that gave us all these photographs, and both of the women's cell phones, which were in good condition. And then at some point, Kris's shoe was found kind of wedged in between 2 rocks in the stream where they were found. and inside the shoe was her foot, decomposing foot. And then they found some of their bones scattered around the riverbed where the backpack was found. And this ended the search for Kris and Lisanne. Well, this ends this episode of Unsolved, and I might, in the future, a week or two from now, do a follow-up to this episode and explain some more and go into some analysis of those last photographs and what happened to Kris and Lisanne. And he would suggest to you that you always stay on the trail.